Alright guys, hey, this is Nick Layton, and I've been asked about the hard rock and metal guitar tones I'm getting from my HeadRush pedalboard. So I decided I'd make a hopefully short video for you guys. I don't want this to be too long because I want to show how easy it is once you have a few things in place. Or at least if you understand a few things going into creating your own rigs, or if you're taking someone else's rigs and tweaking them to fit your guitar and your preferences. Okay, so having said that, what I'm going for here is kind of that 80s, late 70s, late 80s, so, you know, in that 10-year window there, kind of a hard rock, heavy metal tone. My band, Firewolf, is a classic metal band, you know, in the vein of Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and Savatage and, you know, bands like that, Dio. And so I try to get tones like that for my band, and also it just tends to be what I prefer. That's my preference. Now, my guitar, this is a very important element, obviously, in the tone chain. People don't think about this. And wonder why their tone, you know, if you try someone else's rig, if it's not sounding at all like what they put together, it might be your guitar. So I've got, obviously it's a super Strat style guitar. I've got a tone zone from DiMarzio in the bridge. It's fairly hot, not super hot. I've also got a Air Norton in the neck. So, you know, more for lead guitar playing up higher on the neck, I'll use that. For the most part on this video, I'm going to be using the bridge pickup. And so this is a kind of a tutorial on how I create my hard rock heavy metal tones, basic tones. Okay, so we're just going to go amp, we're going to go IR, and then we're going to go overdrive and maybe a delay. And that's about it. You can go hog wild from there. You can take this and add your reverbs, add your modulation effects, different kinds of effects, and go nuts with it. But this is how I get a basic tone to work with. Now, I've already loaded one up for you. We'll get started on that in a sec. Just want to say, before we get going, I have a free sweep picking guide down below. This is for you shredders or wannabe shredders. It's actually for anybody who wants to get into arpeggios and sweep picking. Whether you want to be a shredder or not, maybe you're a blues guy and you just want to add some sweep picking to your style. Make sure to check this free guide out. It's my gift to you. It will help you. It's got video, it's got tab, and it will really help you get going on your sweep picking. Alright, so let's get going. The first tone I want to talk about is a classic type plexi sound, Marshall type sound. I'm using a 68 50 watt plexi here. Alright, I've replaced the cab that automatically comes up with an IR. This IR I'm using is an IR that was created for me by a friend named Greg, who runs a great site, just launched. It's called Sonic DNA, and it's got all these great IRs that you can check out. He made this one for me, that's why it's got my name on it, but he's got very similar types of IRs you can get. British sounding IRs, Friedman pack, there's a 5150 pack, there's all kinds of great stuff over there, so check that out. I'll put that in the link below here. But what you really want is an IR with vintage 30 kind of speakers, maybe some greenback 25s, experiment around with them. With an amp like this, the traditional choice would be something like 25 watt greenbacks. But on this one here, we are kind of going more the vintage 30 route. Okay, so here's my tone with just the amp and the IR to begin with. It's a pretty good tone. Definitely not what I would use for hard rock and metal. But the cool thing is you've got a pretty nice tone here. I've adjusted the EQ. You can see I've got 30% normal volume, 50% on the high volume, 70% presence, 70 treble, 40 mid, 30 bass. Now I might normally bump up the mids a little bit more depending on how this is sitting in the mix if I'm recording, but this sounds pretty good to my ears right now. Okay, so that's the EQ on the amp. What I'm noticing though is that I'm not getting quite enough gain from the amp itself. Okay, and so I want to turn this on. Come on, baby. Turn this on here, and what I've got is the drive at 67. This is based on a tube screamer, the high tone at 50, and the level at 100. Now, because this doesn't have a ton of gain naturally, the amp, I've got the drive higher than I normally would. In fact, usually I'll just use the level and turn that up and then turn the gain all the way down, or turn it really low. But with this particular amp model, I think you need a little bit more help with the gain and to get the hard rock metal tone. So now here's what we have with you can get the artificial harmonics really easily. And yet you can still hear all the tone in a chord. Now what you're hearing now is direct signal from the HeadRush Pedalboard into my Pro Tools system. No effects, EQ, or anything added to it. All HeadRush Pedalboard. Okay, that tone right there I can use for a lot of different things. What the overdrive did was tighten things up a bit. It was a little loose. It also gave it some gain to where now it's got more sustained and more bite, and I really like the way it's sounding. And so, you know, what I might do from here is just mess around with the EQ a little bit if I'm recording, depending on the song in the mix. But for the most part, I can do a lot of what I like to do with my music with this. And let me turn the delay on. And this is a tape echo, 337 milliseconds. The feedback's at 50, the record level's 40, the mix is 20. Tails are on. Okay, so kind of a light delay here, which I like to use. Just to give it a little space. That's even something I might leave on for rhythm stuff if I'm live, because I like a little space. You can hear it doesn't really get in the way. It's not a long echo or anything like that. That's what I would use for a lot of hard rock. Okay, love that tone. Okay, cool. So there's my Marshall 68 plexi tone. It's boosted. I call it pushed. It's a pushed plexi tone with a custom IR in there. But any IR vintage 30 style or greenback 25s will probably sound really good with it. So let's move on. Let's create a new rig. I'm going to do this from scratch this time. And let's do a 5150. Here's my new rig. I'm going to choose the 99. Let's see. Here it is, 99, 51. PV51 lead 2 lead. Okay, and then the cab that comes up, it's okay. Number one thing you notice there is the volume has dropped quite a bit. So I've got the IRs at a certain level, and so the volumes are different. This is okay. It'll do in a pinch, but I'm going to delete this and pull up a custom IR to go with this. Okay, and then I'm going to choose from my folder here, and I'm going to go into an IR that my buddy created for me. These are it's called Ed because they're based on the 5150 cabinets that Eddie Van Halen uses. I'm going to choose a 57 microphone on it, and that's it. Okay, so that's my IR for this. Here's my tone so far without doing any modifications to the amp itself. It's already rocking. I mean, that's a really good tone just right out of the gate. It's a nice sound. But there's a couple things I would do here, and one is let's adjust the EQ on the amp a bit. So on the pre-gain side of things, I'm just going to reduce this a little. I'm going to put an overdrive in front of this, and I know that, so I'm going to take that down a little. The post gain is fine where it is. The reso is fine where it is. The lows are at 50 currently. I'm just going to leave the EQ flat on this because I want to show how just basic and I'll even leave the presence right where it is. Okay, just how basically this can already get you a really good tone. What I like though is a little bit more kick in the mid-range, and I like to do it a lot of times with the overdrive here. Okay, the green overdrive. Even though that's not green, I'm not sure why that's not green by default. I usually change this stuff afterwards. But you get my drift. Tube screamer type of tone. And right away, this is going to really... It really tightens up the low end. And it really helps. It gives a little boost in the gain also. And so you're getting that. Now you're getting a nice heavy metal type of overdrive going on. Now, if that's too much gain, what I would probably do is first take the drive down. I might reduce the high tone a bit too. Okay, let's see what that does. Okay, great sound. That was my front pickup there. There you go. I mean, that's how much more simple can you get, right? 5150. Now, obviously, the IR is making quite a big difference here. But if you just have an IR with some vintage 30s in it, or go over to Greg's site, Sonic DNA, and check that link below and check out some of his packs. Very reasonably priced. Any of that kind of stuff, you can really experiment around and further dial in your tone. But super simple, super easy. I could add a delay on here and would be great for lead guitar or rhythm guitar. So there you go. That's 2 rigs. Let's do another one. Let's go. One of my favorite amps is the Bogner. So let's choose Let's go to a Bogner and choose a red channel. This is 97. What do they call it? 97 RB 01B red. So it's like the red channel on a Bogner Ecstasy. And of course they pull up this 212 here. I'm going to get rid of that and replace it with a custom IR. And let's see, for this one I think I'll just use my IR that my buddy Greg made me. Here's the tone so far, just amp and the IR. I mean, it's already pretty good. Now, it's not quite in the metal territory yet. I'm going to put an overdrive in front of it, but before we do that, let's add a little bit. Let's mess around with the EQ and the gain structure here. So again, when I'm adjusting the gain on the amp, I'm also aware that I like to tighten this up with an overdrive, and that's gonna give more gain, and it's gonna tighten things up a little bit and affect how I might EQ things. Okay, so the gain I've got at 44. And the come on, baby. Gain's at 44. Presence. This is probably going to be funny to watch back later. I don't usually do videos like this. I'm usually trying to teach stuff on the guitar. Okay, presence at 50. Let's move this up a little bit. This amp does tend to be a little bit bassy and needs to be brightened up a little. The volume is at 65. The treble's at 52. Okay. I'll play this for you guys in a sec so you can hear it. Okay, and then mids, I've got 44, bass 37. Again, mids are something I would probably boost in a lot of ways, but you're getting some of that mid-range back with the overdrive. And then the bright is on. Okay, and the boost is all the way up to 100. Okay, so here's my tone now. Great tone there. I like that a lot. That's great with lead or rhythm stuff. I mean, so if you add an overdrive, what you can do is turn it off and on if you're playing live or even if you're recording, and you'll get some of the tightening if you want that. You can hear that already. Let me turn the level, let me turn the drive off. That's beautiful to me. I can use that for tons of stuff. It's a little bit bordering almost on too much gain, so I could adjust that at the amp or take the level down on the overdrive there. I could also fool around with the high tone if it's a little too bright for me, but I think that's sounding really good. I would use this for a lot, and I have used it for a lot of my videos. I tend I love the Bogners for the lead guitar stuff on the HeadRush, but also sounds really good on the rhythms. Okay, so that's it. I would probably for lead I would just add a tape echo. Probably it tends to be my go-to. I like that 337, and then I would just bump things up a little here. 50 on this, 40 on the record level. And these numbers are just things I've kind of experimented with. And they could fluctuate a little bit, but that's a good start for a lead. Without being too over the top with the lead. Now, if you're really going for obviously a more processed or a longer delay time, then you can adjust this easily or set up a couple different delays. I mean, that's the beauty of this, is you could put 2 or 3 different delays, kick them on and off with the pedal board, and for live, or even if you're just recording, you can change this stuff up. And a lot of people don't like to use delays from here when they're recording. They might use them from Pro Tools or whatever, but if we're creating demos and whatnot, it's great, and the delays sound really good, and you can definitely use these in final mixes and things like that. Okay, so those are 3 of my hard rock and metal type rigs that I would create. The guitar is super important. I'm stating the obvious here with some of this, but it's easy to get. I get it. It's easy to get confused, and if things aren't sounding the way you want them to, then it's easy to get frustrated. And I had to put some time into this to start getting tones that I like. The guitar, super important. The pickups will determine where you need to get your gain levels in other ways. So if your pickups aren't hot at all, or if you have single coils, then you're going to have to adjust things. These settings aren't going to work for you as far as the gain goes. You're going to have to adjust things. If you have super hot pickups, you're going to have to take things down a bit. So so consider that. Consider the amp that you pick here, and the gain level on that, and then also the EQ settings. Consider heavily the IR that you pick, or the cab that you pick, and realize that that's going to be a big part of the sound, maybe 50% of your tone right there. And then also consider things like overdrives and delays as ways to further shape your tone and add some color and ambiance to what you're getting. But don't overcomplicate it, especially at first. Go back to the beginning, go back to the basics. Start with your amp. Start with the guitar, then the amp, then your cab, then add overdrive, then delay. To me, this makes the most sense. Treat it almost like a real amp, and you'll get a long ways with this stuff. Okay, I hope that helps. I said this was going to be a short video, but I end up talking way too long on some of these things. So, in any case, I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope, I'm really hoping this came out fairly clear with the settings that I have for my camera here. I'm going to edit this all together, and I'm hoping this is going to turn out good. If it doesn't, you're not going to see this anyway, and you won't even be listening to me, so why am I even saying this? I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching. Enjoy your HeadRush. Stay safe. Check out my free sweep picking guide, and rock on. I'll see you next time.